Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, May 25th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday, Major League Baseball. First up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Detroit Tigers. Jose Barrios and Reese Olson are your starters. I know Reese Olson's 0-5. The Tigers have only won one of his starts this year, but still, he has been so sharp at Comerica Park with a sub-1 ERA, 22 strikeouts, and 21 in the third innings at home. He's got a 164 opponent's batting average at home. He has been so sharp at Comerica, and Barrios has not been great on the road this season. The last couple of years, he's been somebody that you want to back at home, not necessarily on the road, but also is in the month of May. He's just not in great form. I mean, you look at a 7.02 ERA, 5 home runs given up in 3 starts, a lot of base hits to go with it. So for me, I know it's tough to back the Tigers when you see that Olson's lost so many, or the Tigers have lost so many of his starts this year, but I think it's a play. I think the Tigers, while their offense isn't great, they have the starting pitching and bullpen advantage in this matchup. And Barrios, I mean, even the last game against the Chicago White Sox of all teams, another home run given up, 8 base hits. I got to go with the Tigers in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the New York Mets. Jordan Hicks and Luis Severino are your starters. I don't love what I'm seeing from Severino recently. We saw that, he kind of got in a little bit of a trouble in that Braves start on Sunday Night Baseball. He was able to go 5 innings, 2 runs, but still gave up a home run, had 3 walks given up, and the walks are starting to pile up now. His last 3 games, 3 or more walks given up. He gave up the 4 earned runs against the Rays back on May 5th. He gave up 5 earned runs against the Marlins in his last start on May 18th. So now in the month of May, he's got an ERA just below 6 and a lot of base runners, a lot of sharp contact. I do worry about that. I know the Giants have been very hit or miss offensively this year, but they had a pretty good series against the Pirates offensively, against righties, against lefties. I think they get to Severino early in this one, and Jordan Hicks, I think, is a good starting pitching option for San Francisco. Does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. Now, the last couple of games, giving up a home run to his last 2 starts, but I still think he's the better option to start this game. I think the Giants' bullpen, honestly, is the better bullpen, and I'm going to go with San Francisco in this one on the money line. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Chicago White Sox. Dean Kramer and Eric Fedde are your starters. Eric Fedde's pitched well this year. I know his last game was not his best against the Blue Jays, but still has 3.1 ERA on the season, 4-1 record. He's won a good amount of his games recently. 4 of the last 5 the White Sox have won. So he's been rather profitable pitcher recently. And Dean Kramer not in great form. You look at his last start against the St. Louis Cardinals, just not really a competitive outing. 4 innings, 6 base hits, 5 earned runs, a home run, 3 walks to go with it. Now 7 walks in his last 2 starts, and both of those games ended up being Orioles losses. So while the White Sox we saw in the first game of this series, they fell short, they were still competitive in that one, scored 6 runs, and were just shy of the run line cover. And honestly, it was a controversial ending in that game where the White Sox had first and second, 1 out. There was a pop-up. They ruled that Andrew Vaughn was interfering with the play for Gunnar Henderson, and they called not only the pop-up an out, but also Andrew Vaughn at second base out and ended the game. Very, very controversial play that we're going to be talking about for a while. And if it was a team like the Yankees or the Dodgers, where obviously the White Sox, one of the weakest teams in baseball, not too much noise is going to be made. But I mean, it was a very, very interesting play. I can't say I agree with the umpire's ruling there, but it just goes to show you the White Sox were competitive in that game. I think they're competitive in this one. And I'm going to take the 1.5 runs with Chicago. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Minnesota Twins. Michael Lorenzen and Chris Paddack are your starters. Not my favorite game on the board. Both of these starting pitchers, honestly, both of these teams have been pretty tough to read recently. Chris Paddack, we saw in the last game against the Guardians, 8 innings, a 2-run ball. But before that, it was 12 base hits and 5 earned runs with a home run against the New York Yankees. So he's been a little bit inconsistent. But I do think the Twins have the much better bullpen in this game and in this series. So that's why I would lean towards Minnesota on the money line. Lorenzen's pitched well, but the Rangers have lost each of his last 5 starts. And he's also been giving up a lot of walks. He's given up 3 or more in 3 of his last 4 starts. So I got to go with the Minnesota Twins here. Not my favorite game on the board, like I mentioned, but I'll lean towards the Twins on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Reynaldo Lopez and Mitch Keller are your starters. We've mentioned that it's going to be tough for Reynaldo Lopez to keep that 1.54 ERA for the entire season. Natural regression is expected, but he's pitched really well up until this point. I mean, 46 2/3 innings, only 2 home runs given up. He does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. He's right around a strikeout per inning, a little bit less than that, but The controls here and there, it's decent. Last 5 games, only one of those starts where he gave up more than 2 walks. So he's been strong there. And while he doesn't always pitch deep into ball games, he still is usually good to give you 5 to 6 quality innings. And I think that's going to be enough here for a Braves victory and run line cover, because while Mitch Keller's also pitched pretty well this year, we've seen him give up some sharp contact, and I do expect some regression in his game. And then you look at the Pirates bullpen. I mean, we saw how bad a series the Pirates bullpen had against the San Francisco Giants. I mean, I think every game in that series for both teams had at least one blown lead of like 3 or 4 runs. It was pretty ugly work there from the Pirate and even the Giants bullpen in the first game. So I got to go with the Braves in this one and lay the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the Oakland Athletics. Spencer Arrighetti and J.P. Sears are your starters. J.P. Sears has been very inconsistent this year. We've seen some really good outings like we saw against the Astros back on May 14th, but then we've seen him struggle quite a bit where he was not competitive in that Royals game. The Rangers also scored 4 runs on him early against the Orioles back on April 27th, 7 earned runs and 3 home runs. The Astros, while recently haven't been as strong, are still a really tough lineup to face as a left-handed starting pitcher, and I do think they'll be able to get to J.P. Sears early and often in this ball game. Arrighetti, I've mentioned, you look at that ERA on paper, it's pretty ugly at 7.16, but I do think he's trending in the right direction. His strikeout numbers have been better, and overall, I mean, he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 2 of his last 4 starts. That's what you're looking for a young starting pitcher. The Astros have won 3 of his last 4 games, including that one start against the Athletics, where it was a 9-2 victory for Houston. He went 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. You'll take that all day long if you're the Houston Astros from Spencer Arrighetti. So give me the Astros in this one. I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Brady Singer and Aaron Savale are your starters. It's tough to go against these Royals these days. They're one of the most profitable teams in baseball. They're also a really fun team to watch, but I think if you're going to fade them, there's some opportunities when they're playing on the road. They've been right around 500 on the road this year, well over 500 at home, but Brady Singer's also a starting pitcher that pitches a lot better at Kauffman Stadium than he does on the road, where you look at his last few games, 1 earned run against the A's, 1 earned run against the Brewers, same thing against the Rangers, but all those were at Kauffman Stadium. The 1 road start in between those games against the Mariners, 5 innings, 9 base hits, and 4 earned runs with a home run in a 6-2 Royals loss. So I don't love him on the road in this spot. Savale's been a little bit better at Tropicana Field. While I don't love his game either, I think he'll be good enough here for the Rays to grab the W. So give me Tampa Bay at a really good price on the money line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Boston Red Sox. Colin Ray and Nick Pivetta are your starters. I like Nick Pivetta's game. The way to beat him is via the home run ball. We've seen him give up 7 home runs already this year. He's had problems with the home run ball in recent seasons as well, but he's got really good strikeout numbers right now. 16 Ks in his last 2 starts, which was 11 2/3 innings. He also is doing a great job at limiting the free passes, and if he's doing that, if he's giving up the solo home run here and there, that's okay, but if he had problems with the walks, that's where I would worry, but he only has 2 walks in 26 2/3. I think he pitches pretty well here. The Brewers are a tough lineup, but the Red Sox are also a tough lineup, and I don't like what I'm seeing from Colin Ray. He's really regressing. Last game, 5 earned runs given up. Give me the Boston Red Sox in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Jameson Taillon and Matthew Liberatore are your starters. Liberatore struggled this year. There's no doubt about it. 5.4 ERA this season. He's given up 4 earned runs in his last 2 starts, each to the Angels and the Red Sox. But I honestly think this is a decent matchup for him, facing a Cubs lineup that, when you look in the month of May, some pretty bad numbers against left-handed pitching. They're ranked 28th in isolated power, 28th in team OPS. Strikeout rate's a little steep at 22.3%. I think Liberatore pitches pretty well. I think he goes 4 or 5 decent innings, and Jameson Taillon's also not in great form for Chicago after a red-hot start to the year. Now his last 2 games, only going 4 innings, 4 2/3 innings, giving up 13 combined base hits, 5 earned runs, 10 total runs, and 3 bombs. Walks are also starting to pile up for Taillon, and the Cardinals are playing their best baseball this season offensively. I think they get to Taillon early in this one. I think they back up Liberatore, and then you got the Cardinals bullpen, which, look at the expected numbers, second best in xFIP right now. So I trust this Cardinals bullpen. I'm going to go with St. Louis on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to see Walker Buehler and Hunter Green as the projected starters. I thought Hunter Green pitched really well against the Dodgers last week. And I know the Reds lost that game in extra innings, but it was 6 1/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts, exactly what you're looking for from Green. He's in good form. He's pitched well in the month of May. However, he returns to Great American Ballpark for this start, and that's where I worry. So far this year, he's been a lot better on the road, and it makes sense. Great American, very hitter-friendly ballpark. But, having to face this Dodgers lineup, I think Walker Buehler also pitched well in his last start against the Reds, where it was 6 innings, shutout baseball, 7 strikeouts. So if these starting pitchers kind of cancel each other out, I do trust the Dodgers lineup and bullpen more. And I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers in this game, just to lean here, laying the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Colorado Rockies. Aaron Nola and Dakota Hudson are your starters. Like I've said before, I'm looking to back the Rockies at Coors Field in spots where we can get some good prices, because the Rockies usually around a 500 team at Coors Field, like we've seen so far, a little bit below 500, but you can really get some good value with the Rockies at Coors. But this is just not one of those games with Dakota Hudson on the mound. I just can't trust them. Against this Phillies lineup, with how hot they've been against lefties, against righties, they should be able to get to Hudson, who has been miserable at Coors Field this year. In 17 innings, 17 earned runs. So a run per inning, 9 ERA, and 11 strikeouts in those 17. Not good enough. 15 walks. So a 15 to 11 walk to strikeout ratio, putting on way too many runners, 25 base hits as well. And he's just not in good form. His last game was okay against the Giants, but that was at Oracle Park. He returns to Coors here. I think he gets crushed. And Aaron Nola, last year he pitched at Coors. It wasn't good enough for the win, but it was 7 innings of 4-run ball, which is usually good enough for the win at Coors Field. The problem was the Phillies faced a Coors Field veteran in Kyle Freeland in that game. He pitched well, but I don't think Hudson's going to get those kind of numbers in this game. I expect the Phillies to win it on the run line, so give me Philadelphia laying the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Tanner Bybee and Jose Soriano are your starters. And we saw the same pitching matchup back on May 3rd, and that was a 6-0 Angels victory. We backed the Angels in that one. We were getting a good price on that one, plus 160, plus 165. And Soriano was excellent in that game. He's been excellent recently. His last 2 starts going 13 innings combined of 1 earned run baseball. Does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. His walks have been kept to a minimum recently. His strikeout stuff's also improving a little bit, and he's got a really high-velocity sinker, a nasty knuckle curve. I think he's going to be one of the better pitchers in the American League at some point. He's still 25 years old, very young, so watch out for Soriano, in my opinion. Tanner Bybee's pitched well recently, but he struggled against these Angels. 6 earned runs given up in those 5 innings. All those 6 runs in that game were given up by Bybee, 2 home runs to go with it. So I got to go with the Angels at a pretty good price in this one in the first 5 innings on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the San Diego Padres. Marcus Stroman and Dylan Cease are your starters. You look at this pitching matchup, 2 guys with winning records, 3.05 ERA apiece. You'd think, 2 solid starters, we have a pretty low-scoring game on our hands. But I actually like the over in this one. And when you look at the Yankees and Padres, both top 5 in OPS against righties in the month of May. The Yankees, of course, number 1 in OPS and isolated power against righties. They've just been red hot, especially Aaron Judge against right-handed pitching. So I think when Dylan Cease on the side for San Diego, giving up 5 earned runs his last game to the Braves, 9 base hits, 2 home runs to go with it, 3 walks. He was just not very sharp. And going into that game, I know the Braves have a very good lineup on paper, but going into that game, they were not hitting righties very well. So it was actually a decent spot for Cease, and he struggled. I think he struggles against this Yankees lineup. But also Marcus Stroman, while he's pitched better in his last 2 games, his ground ball rate's still below 50% in the month of May. That's a concern for me. I think Stroman's a pitch-to-contact guy, a ground ball specialist. If he's not keeping the ball on the ground, I think he's going to get hurt, and especially the Padres, who have also, like I said, red hot against righties. Luis Arraez has been unbelievable. I think they can get to him for a few runs early in this one, so I'm going to go with the over in the Yankees-Padres. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Sixto Sanchez and Jordan Montgomery are your starters. The final game for Saturday's card. Not my favorite game on the board. At first, it may be tempting to see that plus money price here at Miami, who has been a lot more competitive recently, and take a shot with the Marlins here, but I can't get there with Miami. Jordan Montgomery, while he has not pitched too well this year and has struggled at Chase Field, you got Sixto Sanchez on the other side who's also struggled with, especially in the starting pitching role. And the Diamondbacks offense, we saw what it did against the Dodgers in that series at Dodger Stadium. It's starting to turn it around now, especially against righties. And I think we can get to Sanchez early. And Montgomery, it's a decent matchup for him. The Marlins have not been great against lefties this year. So I think if there was a spot for Montgomery to put together a quality start, this would be the game. I think his strikeout numbers go up a little bit in this spot as well. And I look for Arizona to win it on the run line. Like I said, not my favorite game. I don't love the Diamondbacks bullpen. Don't love the Marlins bullpen. Not really a spot where I don't see a lot of value in this game. So I'll lean towards Arizona laying the 1.5 runs. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.